It's a slow start today. Trickling in one by one.
We're getting there.
I like to say that Genevieve got her second shot yesterday, and I'm having a sympathetic reaction to her second shot.
I get my second.
Ooh, good for her.
I get my second one tomorrow.
Nice.
Got the 16-year or the 17-year-old his first shot yesterday.
Nice. $14.
We're getting there.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Yes.
Morning.
Morning, Ross.
I'm getting messages that my internet is unstable. Can you all hear me okay?
It broke up a tiny bit, but yes.
Okay. Could one of you take over for me just in case? I know it's a
Yeah.
last minute ask, but I wasn't counting on it.
I'd be
Okay.
happy to if you want, Mirta.
And if you need to
Okay.
turn your video off, Mirta, so
Yeah.
I can hear you, I think that would be okay.
Yeah, I had to do that on Monday. Ashley, how are we doing?
I'm ready to go when you are.
Great.
Do you want to give it a try, Mirta, or do you want to just hand it over to somebody?
I'll give it a shot. If I see that it's getting really bad, I'll turn off my camera and maybe someone can take over. You can take over. I'll text you. That might.
My internet is also on the fritz, so I'm on my phone. But I might be logging in on the internet off and on. So just beware for some weird stuff going on my end.
Okay. You mean weird stuff related to internet?
Well, maybe a little of both. Who knows?
Okay. Okay, it's 8:45, so I'm gonna get us going because we have a packed agenda. So good morning, everyone. I'm gonna call the Public Works Committee to order. And first things first, we continue to meet virtually. If you're joining us today via the Zoom webinar and would like to provide public comment on items not on the agenda, please use the raise and lower hand feature to let us know that you would like to provide public comment, and we will acknowledge that. If you're participating by phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. If you want to provide general comments on specific items on the agenda, do the same thing. And you can always call City Council at 406-552-6012, or you can email City Council at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. And Ashley, if we could take a roll call to see who's in attendance, please.
Anderson? Becerra?
Present.
Contos?
John is here. I see him.
Harp?
Present.
Hess? Jones?
Present.
Merritt?
Present.
Ramos?
Present.
Cheryl?
Present.
Wasika? Von Lossberg?
Here.
West? Thank you.
Thank you. We have minutes from to approve. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, those will stand approved. We'll check for anyone in the public who might want to provide public comment on items not on the agenda. I see a phone number ending in 57. If you would like to provide public comment on items not on the agenda, please let us know. Okay. Might be a participant for later items. So with that, we will move to our first item of the agenda, and that is item 3.1, a bid award with Knife River for the Grant Creek Sewer Collection Improvement Project. And Ross is here to present. Go ahead, Ross.
Thank you, Mirta. Yeah, my name is Ross Mollenhauer. I am serving as the interim deputy director of utilities at the moment. And I'm here to ask the council to award this project to Knife River. This is the Grant Creek Lift Station rehabilitation project, or also it's actually it's not really a lift station rehab project. It's more of a sewer bypass project, where our plan is to take this old lift station that is basically at the downstream end of a series of lift stations that serves the sewer all the way out to the Y. And this is the last lift station that we've known that it's reaching capacity. When Morris Summarily did our wastewater facility plan several years ago, this was the one that they identified as the nearest to reaching capacity. So we needed to do something to increase capacity out here, and we asked our engineers to look at this, and they identified an option that would basically eliminate the lift station, and through a series of borings, we could install a new gravity main that would go southward. And I'm gonna try to share my screen here and show you guys the location. Let's see, share screen. If I can get this out of the way. There we go. So this is out here on West Broadway. This is near Expressway. Maybe it is Expressway. And this is where the lift station's at right now. We're going to bore underneath the Grant Creek here, then underneath the railroad tracks and underneath West Broadway, and then run gravity line out to here. And that will allow us to turn this whole lift station from a pump system into a gravity system, which is always preferable. We looked at the cost for this, and it was a little more expensive than rehabbing when you just looked at the direct costs. But then when you consider things like the continued electrical costs for running a lift station for the next 20 years or 30 years, and then the operational costs, that overall the net present worth identified this as the best option. So we went through a bidding process and selected Knife River through our procurement policy, and we're ready to go. So we're asking, you'll probably see this happen, the construction happen in phases. This is the future intersection of Mary Jane and Broadway. And with the bill grant work, we wanted to get this done before June 1st. So we'd like to get our contractor moving on this portion right away, just to get out of the Mary Jane intersection. And then I think they'll probably wait a little bit longer in the summer to finish the boring components over here. So I'm happy to take questions if anyone has questions.
Great, thank you, Ross.
Yep.
Jordan and then Julie. Go ahead, Jordan.
Thanks, and thanks, Ross. And first, I'd make the recommended motion, and then I have a question. So, Ross, what's the operational savings of this over time as far as electricity? And are there also? It seems like this would be a benefit to have a gravity-fed system in times of power outages or other times. I mean, can you speak? Sorry, that wasn't very articulate. But can you speak to the benefits of the gravity system and also operating costs over time?
Yeah, I think it's just inherently advantageous, let's say, to have a gravity system. We always prefer gravity to any kind of pressurized system. It's less likely that we lose a transducer in the middle of the night and that our crews have to come out and fix that, or a pump goes out. So yeah, I know our collection staff is very excited to move whenever we can eliminate a lift station. That makes their work easier. And so I think the operational savings comes from a reduced the reduced amount of time that our staff needs to be out there maintaining these things, as well as the electrical costs. And, pumping water or wastewater is probably the city's biggest electrical bill. So whenever we can avoid pumping, I don't have the exact numbers. I'm happy to find that analysis and send it to you, Jordan, if you'd like to see the exact
No,
numbers.
that's not necessary. Yeah, it's a helpful description. Thank you.
Yeah. I should add too that the funding for this project is coming from the Sewer Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Development Fund. We're increasing capacity out here, so we think it's appropriate to use the development fund as well. There's a lot of growth going on, as everyone knows, in this area.
For sure. Thank you, Ross. Julie.
Thanks. Ross, I guess just a quick question. What, if any, risks are there to Grant Creek with having a sewer line drilled underneath of it? Can you give us an idea of what the separation will be between the bottom of Grant Creek and this pipeline?
Yeah, I don't know if I have that. I don't know the exact distance. I can find that out and follow up with you about how deep it'll be. I know that we had to go through permitting with some of the agencies, and I'm happy to follow up with you. I don't believe there's any risk to this. I think nowadays that they make you bore this stuff so deep and having to go underneath the railroad as well, that we're protected from. We're sufficiently protected from any creek flooding events. But would you like me to follow up with that, Julie?
I think that's a good description. I just want to make sure people understand that this isn't going to be a situation where the sewer line is going to get uncovered by erosion in Grant Creek and cause any kind of problems of a sewer maybe getting dumped into Grant Creek.
Yeah.
Good point. For the record, Sandra Vasica has joined the meeting. Good morning, Sandra. Next, Heather.
Thanks, Marta. Ross, I was wondering if you could speak to how the materials cost came in higher than we expected, than the engineer's estimate was, and then how the apprenticeship bidder preference played into this particular bid.
Yeah, you bet. So yeah, you probably noticed that the engineer's estimate was around, I think, 660,000, and this is obviously significantly higher. And I think that speaks to the fact that materials costs, that's what the engineers have told us, the materials costs are coming in a lot higher than anyone anticipated, and we're seeing that probably all around the city. That is what it is. I think we've budgeted. We feel that we can still get this done with our budget this year. We might have to delay another project, a smaller project, but I think we've got the money to be able to. This is our number one priority. So we'd like to get this done, even if it means delaying. I think it's the North Russell sewer main project that we've also got under design, but we might not bid just right now. And then as far as the apprenticeship program goes, you'll notice that there was 3 bidders. 2 of them, Knife River and First Mark, who were the lowest bidders in the end, did not use the bidders program. And I don't know why, because I need to follow up with that. Knife River has used it in the past. And I don't know why, if they've already got it up and running, why they wouldn't have applied for that credit. But in the end, Dick Anderson did have the apprenticeship program, and it did not, it's a 5% reduction in your bid total. And it did not end up winning them the project, although it was close. And so I would hope that the other companies are taking notice of that and saying, we almost could have lost this project to Dick Anderson, so we better get that apprenticeship program up and moving.
Appreciate that very much, Ross. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I don't see any more hands up. Anyone in the public here to make a public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, can we get a roll call vote, please, Ashley?
Yes. Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes. Yes.
Anderson, did you want to vote on this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that is 11 yeses and no nos.
I think you missed Sandra.
She joined.
Oh, she came in. Okay.
Oh, I was going to abstain since I wasn't here for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, next item is a resolution adopting the stormwater and wastewater facility plans. And is Logan presenting or?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, hi, Logan.
Hello,
Yep.
everybody. Thank you. Logan McInnes, I'm the engineering manager for Public Works and Mobility. And maybe real quick, if you don't mind, I have a couple answers to the questions that just came up on the last project. Is that okay if I add some information to that? Okay. So I pulled up the plans and it shows the pipe being bored under Grand Creek is about 5.2 feet under or beneath the bottom of the creek bed. So there is a fair amount of material available for scour. And I guess the other thing I'd point out is there already is a pressurized line under Grand Creek. So this, should be improving that situation, just having a gravity line under there. So thanks. On to the item here. So this is about the facility plan adoptions for the 3 utilities. And basically, we didn't realize that we had to do this. It became apparent as part of the state revolving loan fund process that they needed some specific language to be adopted. They needed the plans to be adopted and then some specific language about the city having the necessary legal, financial, and managerial resources to construct, operate, and maintain those facilities. So I guess it's kind of just a clerical sort of thing, getting these adopted. So that's why we're here. And I apologize that we didn't realize that previously. So I guess, the referral is to request that you adopt the 2018 Water System Master Plan, the 2019 Wastewater Facility Plan, and the 2018 Stormwater Facility and Operations Plan, so that we can secure state revolving fund loans from the state of Montana for City of Missoula utility capital improvement projects. So are there any questions?
I see Julie's hand up.
I was just going to go ahead and make the recommended motion for anyone who maybe wasn't on council or has forgotten. And we've had presentations on all of these plans and discussed them at length. Happy to support making all of these part of the record so that we can participate in that state revolving loan fund.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Okay, we have a motion. Any public comment on the motion? Okay, seeing none. Ashley, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That is 12 yeses.
Great. So that will be on our consent agenda. Thank you. Thank you, Logan.
Thank you very much.
And next we have item 3.3, Ordinance Amending MMC Chapter 12.24 to change an excavation permit language. And Troy is here to present.
Good morning. I'm Troy Monroe, City Engineer for Development Review and Inspections. Let me share my screen here. What we are bringing forward is to bring excavations in line with how the building permits are ordered and followed through on. What you see here is that this system allows multiple ways for the inspections to be scheduled. They can do it by phone or by text. The changes to Chapter 1224 will include 20 different inspections being brought into this system. Specifics are that the specific changes to Chapter 1224 allow excavations to occur over the full 180 days that they have their right-of-way permit open, but they are required to have traffic control in place until their excavation is patched back with asphalt or concrete. This brought in changes to add stormwater wording into the code. And while we were in the system, in this chapter, we also made some text changes to align Chapter 1224 up with the Public Works Manual. So you'll see changes to the thickness of patchback of asphalt. So those are the major changes. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Troy. Heather.
I don't have any questions, but I'm happy to make the recommended motion and speak to it if I may. Well,
Yes,
Troy,
please.
I am excited to see this come out. I mean, I can only imagine as any contractor in town to be able to both call, text, and get an inspection scheduled has got to be a huge game saver. So thanks to your team to get this to the finish line, and looking forward to it.
Great.
That's a great point. Yep. Let's see if we have anyone in the public wanting to make a comment on this item. Seeing none, could we get a roll call vote, please, Ashley?
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That is 12 yeses. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that will go on the consent agenda. And our next item is a Northwestern Energy meter replacement project, and Jeremy Keene is here to present.
Morning, everyone. Jeremy Keene, Director for Public Works and Mobility. We have two presentations this morning from Northwestern Energy. The first one is on a meter replacement project that they are working on. And then the second one is on streetlights, and I'll talk about that when we get to that item. So I believe we have, I'm hoping we have folks from Northwestern on the line, but I'm not seeing names.
Jeremy,
Okay,
I wonder
so-
if the phone number in attendance.
Sorry, we're okay. So we have Matt Holden and Steve Clausen presenting from Northwestern Energy this morning. Thanks for being here, guys. Sorry about that. So I'm going to hand off to Matt and let them take you through this presentation on meters.
Good morning, everyone. I am going to present, I believe I'll share my screen for this. And just as a question to the group, first of all, can everyone hear me okay? Okay. And second of all, has anyone seen this presentation as of yet, the PDF document? A lot of no's. Okay, no worries. This is perfect. So I'll go through this. I'll try to go through it slowly. If you guys have any questions at any point, stop me, ask away. Mr. Clausen, I believe, is going to be on if he isn't already, and he can help support this. But my name is Matt Holden. I'm with Northwestern Energy. I'm our project manager for the meter upgrade project throughout the state of Montana. Just as a note that Missoula division, our area Missoula, is going to be the first that we start this project in. Tentatively right now, we're slated to start the week of April 19th in the Missoula area. We are working with, it'll be in the presentation, but we're working with a third-party contractor, TrueCheck, who will help do the installation work for both of electric meters and the gas earths that we're going to replace throughout our area. Share my screen with you guys. All right. Can everyone see this okay? See some nodded heads. Perfect. Okay. So what we're doing, the meter project that we're going to end up taking on for the state of Montana. So over the course of the next 3 years, we are going to be deploying approximately 590,000 electric meters and or gas endpoints. And what we see in this picture right here, we have the gas meter, but this gas ERT sits, this dial component is the index. Behind that index is the communication component, which provides the read, in essence, from that meter. And so these are going to be replaced for all of our gas customers in service territories that we've already identified. So we're touching, this is what we'll consider phase 1 of the project. And we are addressing electric meters and gas endpoints in what we call them combo areas, gas and electric, or electric only customers. So right now the focus is on the 590,000 endpoints we have throughout the state. Northwestern Energy, again, we've got TrueCheck as our contractor for deployment. They've established a warehouse out in Bonner, and that's where they'll be working out of for the next 16 to 18 months for the Missoula area. They will start the contract work in April. So right now we're slated for not quite 2 weeks, about a week and a half. TrueCheck will begin deployment in Missoula. Actually, I wanted to touch one piece of this too. The way the technology works, we are going to be installing electric meters first. So we will go out and replace existing electric meters on a home or business with a new meter. And then 4 to 6 weeks after that, we will come back and install the gas endpoint. If that residence or business has natural gas, we'll come back and replace that at that time. So it's not done concurrently. It's the way that the technology works. The electric meters are kind of the parent in the communication, and then the gas, they communicate to that electric meter. And so we want to establish a well-defined mesh. That's done with the electric meters being installed first. So you may see customers, Missoula area residents that call and say, we've got someone coming back into our yard. That's normal. And we'll touch on this through the presentation, but we have sent out brochures to our customers in the Missoula area explaining the project. And then starting today, actually, we've identified that the customers specifically that will have electric meters changed out in the next several weeks. We are going to be sending them postcards to let them know that TrueCheck will be in their area over the course of the next month. COVID-19, obviously this has impacted everybody across the globe. Specifically in the Missoula area, you know, what we want to focus on is safety first, safety of our customers, safety of our employees and our contractors. And so the expectation that we have of TrueCheck and Northwestern Energy is to continue following CDC guidelines for the COVID-19 practices, wearing masks, as they're out and they knock on doors to let customers know that they're going to be in their backyard or on the side of their home, they are to be wearing a mask and standing a little bit away from the door so that they can talk to the customer, but keeping a safe distance from them. But there will be times when they do, if they're working alone, they will not have a mask on. So just so people are aware that the expectation is if they're around anyone or there's a possibility of someone being around, they need to be wearing masks. But safety, again, safety is first and foremost for us, for our customers, and for our contractors. Current energy use information, you know, this is the benefits that we want, obviously, to communicate to our customers. And what we're trying to get the information out via brochure is to let them know that we're now being able to provide them real-time information or near real-time information. So customers that may call in if they have questions about their bill, currently with our AMR technology, which is automated meter reading, it involves a vehicle that drives around once a month, several times a month, and picks up reads from electric and gas meters. So if you as a customer have a question between January and February about why maybe your bill changed dramatically, we only have a 1 month difference to look. So we look at historical use, but we don't have a day-to-day look or even hour-to-hour look. And so what this technology provides is a snapshot every 1 hour on a residence. It'll take a snapshot or reading of what that usage looks like. And then we can actually pull that, and every 8 hours is what we're communicating from these meters. So they take a snapshot hourly. On commercial customers, it's every 15 minutes. But on a typical installation, it's hourly. And that information is then sent back to our data center on an 8-hour interval. So all 8 hours, hour by hour usage is sent back to us. But again, we can interrogate and pull a meter at any time if a customer does have a question. System voltage issues, you know, we've already rolled this technology out in South Dakota and Nebraska. South Dakota having our electric customers, we've been able to proactively identify issues that the customer may see, but didn't, because we were able to get the information from that meter before any interruption was found. So the technology that we're using now going forward, it's going to allow us to see an electric service potentially is going bad. If there's connections that are issues, you know, we can go out and proactively fix these before a customer sees any outage. From a global a grid look, you know, we're now using this technology to combine with a distribution management system that we're starting to get set up. And in the future years, that will help us identify outages and map them so that we can help customers say, yes, you are out of power, we see that. It also allows that, because of the timeliness that we get the outage information, we can ask crews to get out faster and return service to normal at a much higher speed than we were in the past. So these are immediate customer benefits that we're trying to explain to our customers now, that these are things that we can see immediately. Again, some of the technology that we're employing with this new meter technology, it's a foundation to build on future availabilities that both the customers and utility will want to use in the future. Other items, you know, eliminate need for vehicles. So our collectors, the meters that, you know, or meter readers that drive by, again, there's going to be a much less need for them driving around. Over the course of 3 years as we deploy this, They are still going to be working to read existing AMR meters, but over the course of the 3 years, that need will go down. So again, carbon reduction as far as the number of vehicles out. The other thing is that we can do turn on, turn offs remotely for most of our customers. We can also do check reads and things like that, where we typically had to go and send a serviceman out to do that meter check. We can actually do that over the air now, saving truck rolls and overall costs to our customers. So this is kind of a fun slide to look at, just again, what the technology is currently and what the technology is going to be going forward. So it's a really busy slide, but some of the big things that we want customers to take away. Right now, existing AMR meters, it's a one-way communication. That meter only communicates out to our vehicle, and as often as that vehicle drives by. So, it could be, in some areas, it might be once a week. In some areas, it might be once a month. They communicate on a 900 megahertz platform. So right now, our meters communicate from a 910 to 920 megahertz. And why I highlight that is the new meters, they communicate on the same platform. It's in the 900 megahertz communication channel. This is an FCC regulated, but it's an unlicensed spectrum. So it's no different than baby monitors or your garage door openers. It's in that communication platform. So, one of the big takeaways we want to provide is that from a communication technology, that same channel is being used. What it does, though, is it allows us two-way communication. So we can communicate to the meter and vice versa, that meter is communicating out to us. We have to have people out. If it's a demand customer, we have to manually go out and read that meter manually and reset that meter manually. With the new technology, everything is done over the air. We can reset the demand and get that read on the time it's needed every month. Again, providing us outage information, on-demand readings within seconds. Again, that's going to be a very useful benefit right off the bat. Remote disconnects and reconnects for customers moving in and out, especially with Missoula being a college town. We see a lot of that in the fall and summer when kids are moving in and out. We have a lot of disconnects, reconnects because of people moving in and out, and that will save a ton of time, a lot of truck rolls and service calls for people having to go out in the field. Again, events and alarms. This is outage notifications or issues that may be happening at the meter. We get events that we can use as far as information. And then net metering capability. This is another big one. We've received a couple calls already. We have customers, especially in the Missoula area, that use solar panels. They require a special meter, a net meter, that allows basically power flow in and power flow out. All new meters that we are purchasing have net metering capabilities. And so the meters that we use throughout the state, they're going to have that capability. So we're not going to have to use a specific meter for net metering. The new meters, they handle that. So I'm going to take a pause right there. Is there any questions? There's a lot of stuff I'm throwing at this group. Got a couple of hands up. Jordan?
Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. This is an exciting project, and I think it'll be really. I can see all the benefits moving forward. I was curious. I'm glad you addressed the net metering. That was going to be one of my questions. And then the other question that I had was if the interval data will be available to the customers through a web portal, or if that's part of the future planning.
It's part of future planning. They're working on it right now, okay. Jordan. Great question. At this time, we have, if a customer does want their hourly or 15-minute interval data, we can get that to them, but they would have to call in. A web portal is actually something we're currently working on right now so that you can go in and get it at your leisure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Brian?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. Jordan asked a couple of my questions. I guess I would just underscore the interest in our constituents within the community for direct access to that data over time. So I really hope that is moved forward aggressively. Not a question, just a comment. It would be a shame if the utility participated in any effort that eliminated the viability of solar in Montana and in this community and negated the capacity and capability of these meters for net metering reading. So just a note for the utility and the public. And last thing, a question. In our implementation plan that we've worked with Northwestern and drafting related to our MOU associated with our 100% clean electricity initiative, one of the items we specifically call out relative to this deployment is the opportunity to work with the utility on a time-based rate program. And I'm wondering if you have any comments to speak to that.
Honestly, Brian, that's a great question. Great comment. I know that it's been looked at, but I personally don't have any information. Steve Clausen, do you by chance have any feedback to that?
I don't. I did make a note of it, Brian. I actually haven't been part of that any of those conversations either. But I'll follow up and find out.
Okay, if I could, Mirta, just quickly, I from some discussions, as you know, Steve, we are joined at the hip with the county in our efforts around the initiative. That's something that passed unanimously with the county commissioners and the council. Big support from the community, residential and business customers, and I'm under the impression you'll likely either be scheduled or asked to give this information to the commissioners, and we work closely with Diana Mineta there. So yeah, if it's possible to perhaps speak to that time-based rate program opportunity when that happens, that'd be great. And I'll make a point of joining that update if that gets scheduled.
It's on. We're on for the 15th, Brian, next week.
Great.
So,
thanks.
Yep.
Logan and then Heidi.
Thank you. And Brian pretty much asked the question I was going to ask, but similar question, for the utilities, time of day metering could be pretty impactful to our operations. I mean, not that we couldn't figure out a way to work around it, but certainly we would need to know as much in advance if we were going to go towards a time-based metering program, so we could change how we operate pump systems.
No, so that's, and I can appreciate Brian and Logan where you guys are coming from. So the time of use rates, again, there's a lot of work behind the scenes from rate structure setup and things like that. But do know that the meters that we're using, that we're going to be deploying, are all capable of time of use metering. So it's more of a matter of, again, one, creating some meter programs behind and making sure that time of use rates are available for us to basically bill the customers on what those uses are. But the time of use capability is absolutely there. It's just going to take some time for us to get that addressed.
Heidi.
So my question's around the net metering and I guess how this might interact with the solar information that solar customers are already getting. So I am a net metering customer and can get, pretty much 15-minute data on my solar. Are those, I guess, these information portals going to talk to each other so a customer can see both the solar info and the usage info in the same platform? Do you know?
That's a fantastic question. I will be the first to admit, so from a metering technology standpoint, you won't see a difference. So if it's capturing 15-minute intervals, that's what we're going to be using. As a net meter customer, I will say this, all of the meters, again, I think I did mention that they're capable of net metering, but one of the big components is how they're programmed and that they're recording correctly. That is something that we're still testing. It's a change from what we had in South Dakota. So South Dakota doesn't really have a net metering setup. And so we're making sure that these meters, they're configured and tested before we start deploying them. So you'll actually see potentially another 6 to 8 months before we replace your existing net meter. But a piece of that would be, and I'm taking a note of that, is you should see an interruption to how you're getting data. So I might follow up with you, Heidi, and get a better understanding of what platform you're using to get information.
Yeah, and I'm happy to follow up. I know that in my, and I might not know how to use it very well either. I'll give that caveat, but it seems like there is a spot in the platform that would allow for utility data to live within it, that would provide a lot more information to me about how, what my energy usage looks like. So it'd be great if, things worked well together. So
you are actually be the third or fourth individual I've spoken to about net metering. So this is timely, and it's a great question, just because I think we want to make sure that from a technology standpoint, the metering works, but from a end user and the customer, if you've got some way of seeing that information, we want to make sure that we understand what you're using, what it interacts with from different softwares, and see if we can help support that. So if at some point I'd like to follow up with you, Heidi.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great question.
I don't see any other hands up. So Matt, go ahead.
Thank you, Martha. So I'll jump to this one here. Again, future, some of the great things that you guys just talked about. Time of use metering. Again, we know that this is extremely important, not only just to the Missoula area, but across the state. As technology changes, this is going to be a very big benefit to our consumers. And so this is something we're definitely looking into. Prepaid metering, allowing customers to put $100 onto their bill, and it gives them an opportunity to know different utilities that we've talked with. They start seeing lights blink when that $100 comes close to being used up. The lights will blink in the home, showing that they may need to add more money to the account, or slowly things will become turning off at the house. Home area networks. Again, that's stuff that sits behind the meter. Again, these, and we definitely want to make sure that our customers know is the technology that we're currently using, it stops at the meter. So we're not right now using anything that would communicate with devices inside the home. That's not at this time what they're intended to do. Is it a future capability? It absolutely is. And that's what the home area network component is. Demand response, and then street light controls. And I think, George, I see you're on. George Horvath and several others will talk to LED lighting that you guys are probably aware of. That's going through the city of Missoula, trying to tie that technology together is something that future use could be capable of with these AMI technologies. So again, this is a nice slide to look at, just showing immediate benefits and then what our future benefits are. And again, this is what we want to make sure our customers are aware of is, we can read their meter remotely. We're not having someone drive by. Voltage alarms, the disconnects and reconnects remotely, move-ins and move-outs. Those are the things that we can do immediately. Future benefits, this is the piece, the CSR portal. I think you guys had asked about that. I think Brian and Jordan, you guys are asking about trying to get information to our customers. It's there, and that's something that we're working on. Time of use capabilities. These are things that we are looking into the future on, but again, trying to get our arms around, first and foremost, just getting the technology to do what we currently have functioning, adding a little bit of, again, immediate benefits, But this is a 3-year project. And so we just need to make sure first and foremost that our customers are seeing as little impact as possible as we employ this through the state. Again, a lot of what we're doing, we just talked through. Some of the things that we also want our customers to know, recycling. So we are actively going to be working with a third-party group, they're Interco, and they are going to be recycling all of our existing electric meters. So what we do is we package these up, palletize them, and we're going to be sending them to them, and then they strip them apart, glass, plastic, the metal inside of them. Everything is going to be recycled or disposed of environmentally safely, so that we know that they're not just getting thrown in the landfill. On the gas side, the gas ERTs that are on the gas meters, those too are also going to be recycled. We do that anyway. We use a third-party vendor, Itron, and we're going to be sending them through the same process. The gas ERTs, they recycle those. Again, this is something that, we just want to explain to our customers. This sets us up for future benefits. The immediate benefits might be a little bit smaller, but future benefits, that's what we're looking for. And again, end of the presentation. So any other questions, comments? I see Heather's got one.
Heather, go ahead.
Thanks. Matt, this has been a great presentation. I really appreciate both you and Steve being here today. So a couple of things I am curious about. So if I remember correctly, there was 690,000 meters are going to be replaced across the state. Oh, 590.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nope, you're right on. Yes.
So out of all of those across the state, how did Northwestern Energy come to the conclusion to start in Missoula, which I do appreciate, but knowing that oftentimes across the state, Missoula is seen as this icon of liberal ideas, was that the rationale behind it, or was there some other reason?
That's such a good question. We've actually had a lot of internal people asking why Missoula. It was our vendor. They were the ones that when they put the deployment plan together for this project, they wanted to start in the Missoula area. Reason being is one of its weather. We've got kind of the springtime to start, and they have I think it's 16 to 18 month time frame in which they'll be in the Missoula area. And when I say Missoula area, it's Missoula, south to Darby, west to Thompson Falls Plains areas. So we felt that this would be the best area to start in from a number of customers, time frame in which they'll be here, and then weather dependent. This is what they thought would be best suited for a starting place. So it wasn't necessarily a Northwestern Energy decision. When we saw that the deployment plan started here, we thought it makes sense.
Appreciate that. And then is part of that plan also to make sure that the company addresses the need on our reservations in the state, make sure that they are brought up to speed, because I'm sure this would be incredibly beneficial to them.
Heather, I missed a little bit of that. You said something about the reservations. I'm sorry.
Yeah, is part of that deployment plan to also make sure that that our reservations across the state are also targeted and upgraded as well?
Yes, ma'am. So one of the things that we're actually working on is I'm going to butcher this, so I apologize. There's a tribal association, I believe, that covers the state of Montana. And what we're doing is reaching out to them to find out who the specific contact individuals are in each of our reservations that we provide service to. And we're going through with them and explaining to them what the project is and seeing if there's any permitting requirements or any other special needs that they have of us or TrueCheck when they're there before we start any work. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or if you're looking for more.
No, that covers it. And one more, if I may, Murta.
Yeah.
what I think is really remarkable about this project, it's very similar to what we did with our water utility. The meter upgrades that we've installed have really done a lot of savings in terms of both employee time of having to go around and check meters. I imagine that is one of these long-term plays for your organization as well. Here's me just putting a plug. Someday, some of those employee savings can maybe be passed along to the ratepayers as well, which I'm sure becomes part of this, but I know there's an investment up front in the equipment. So I appreciate the company going down this path and really kind of thinking long-term for everybody.
That's a great point, Heather. And from a long-term look, that's exact. You hit it on the head. Is, you know, what can we do as a company to provide that benefit to our customers, both in savings and in choice and availability of options that are out there. And this is that foundation of technology that we can use going forward. So yeah, this is kind of a big step. There's, you know, obviously a major investment into the technology, but going forward, it allows us, again, opportunity to give our customers more options and availability, potentially save money that, you know, they may not have that option in the technology we currently have.
Great. I don't see any other hands up. Matt, thank you so much. This was a very informative information, and I'm sure some of us will follow up with you if there are any questions pending.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, Lori Hart has my email, but I think you guys probably have contact with Steve Clausen too. Anything you guys have questions on for follow-up or whatever, Heidi, you're on my list to talk to. I do want to just make sure you guys know that we're available for whatever you need.
In terms of sending things out through Lori or directly to me is just fine. I will definitely follow up. So feel free to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else, Jeremy, with this item?
I don't have anything to add. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, both of you. I accidentally skipped one item, so we're going to do that before we move to the next presentation by Northwestern Energy. And that is the Patty Street right-of-way vacation request, and Brant is here to present. And my apologies, Brant.
No worries. Yeah, so I'm Brant Dolan, construction project coordinator with Infrastructure Mobility Division of Public Works. Sharing the screen.
What's wrong with this thing?
So this is the Patty Street right-of-way vacation. Everyone hear me good?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the area. This is a petition request from the mayor of the city of Missoula on behalf of the city parks department to vacate public right-of-way. It's approximately 30 feet of Patty Street, including a 53-foot non-tangent curve laying north of Best Reed Park at the end of the Patty Street cul-de-sac. This request is made in order to provide additional dedicated parkland as required by federal grant regulations. This is the area here adjacent to the Holiday Inn, just north of Clark Fork River and next to Karis Park. David Selvage is going to talk a little bit about the situation that caused the need for this vacation.
Good morning. We were approached by Public Works and MRA to provide for a turnout bay off of Carousel Drive in order to maintain emergency access and relieve some pressure on that driveway. Karas Park is a land and water conservation funded deed restricted park. At some point in time or times, the city has received grant funds for that park. And the deed restriction was placed over that boundaries, inclusive of the area for the turnout bay. It was agreed at the time to deed the end of Patty Street, the unopened right of way there. That was just an easy route to go. That property will be deed restricted. The only impact will be Northwest Energy will not be allowed to expand their utilities overhead. They can go underground, and we've been working with Public Works on undergrounding some of those utilities, just to clean up the environment and kind of create that downtown master plan look that everybody's seeking on that. We worked with Charlie McDermott, the hotel owner, and he has graciously declined to accept his half of the right of way so that we can make this whole. This is an area we've already been maintaining with turf grass and irrigation, so there's no added cost to this. This will eventually satisfy our requirements through the state of Montana's state parks and the Federal Park Service.
Thank you, David.
Okay, so this shows the exhibit of the area. You know, we had this done by PCI, professional consultants, so that we made sure all the bounds were closed for this this project, and then it all matched up. This just shows, you know, the exhibit overlaid on a satellite image of the area. So it's not a huge area, but it's plenty to make up for what was lost. Here's an image showing looking south at the end of the cul-de-sac on Patty Street with my rough depiction of the area. This shows some of the previously vacated areas. So you can see a lot of the areas around there has been vacated and added to the park. So this kind of makes sense to add on to that area. This is, you know, we got Charles McDermott's signature, who graciously waived his rights to half of the vacation to make this happen. So Northwest Energy did request to preserve their right to access and maintain the facilities in the right of way. They have some underground gas, overhead electric, and underground electric that all go through this area. You know, MCA says that vacation will not affect any public utility. So we'll include some language such as the language below that talks about, you know, through the right of way, even though it's vacated, the utility easements will remain. They're the only one that had a public comment when we sent that out for public comment. Yeah, so my recommendation is to adopt a resolution to vacate public right of way of the 30 feet of Patty Street. Further described in Exhibit A, it will become public parkland and set a public hearing on May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. So this motion would be to set the public hearing for May 3rd. Julie, go ahead.
I'd be happy to make the recommended motion. I have what I feel like might be a stupid question.
Go ahead. There's no stupid questions.
Okay. Is anything going to change about what's on this piece of ground right now?
Nope. Yeah, it's still going to maintain parkland, which, you know, I think Parks has already been maintaining it and mowing it, and it's just going to stay the same. It's just the designation of what it's called.
Okay. Quick follow-up, if I may. David, you said something about better access for emergency vehicles. Did I understand that correctly?
I don't recall saying anything about emergency access.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you.
This land is to replace some parkland that was taken away for emergency access over in front of Karis Pavilion over here.
Thank you for that clarification, Brant. That Julie, that's what it was. Is that we worked with MRA and Public Works to expand a drive lane, so there was a way for maintain emergency access behind the Wilma, and that cut into a land into Karis Park and the Land and Water Conservation Fund deed restriction area. And so this is replacement land for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Thanks, Brant.
Yeah, that's a great point. Brian and then Gwen.
Julie asked it and sounded a lot more intelligent than the way I was going to ask it, so I appreciate it. I just wanted to follow up, that the end of that cul-de-sac there gets a lot of public use in terms of folks. It's one of my favorite spots, exiting the river, floating down the river and exiting there, or accessing the river or such. And so I think I'm sure it's a redundant question of what Julie asked, but there's no negative effect on any of the public sort of access and use of that area that comes with this that I can see. And that's what I heard you say in response to Julie, David. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in a way it's just formalizing the use that's currently being what that area is being used for. So it's a replacement of parkland. So it makes sense to me. Gwen.
Thanks. Yeah, my understanding is it basically balances our equation for the Land and Water Conservation Fund since we had to use some elsewhere over closer towards the carousel. But the point I wanted to make was I just wanted to extend a big thank you to Charles McDermott. He is the owner of the Holiday Inn, and he has always been very community oriented. So his cooperation and collaboration to help make this work with the right-of-way vacation is much appreciated, and I wanted to extend that to him.
Thank you for that, Gwen. Okay, we have no more hands up. Anyone in the public wanting to make a public comment on this item? Please let us know. Okay, I don't see any. So with that, if we can take a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That's 12 yeses.
Great. So that will go on our consent agenda. Thank you both, David and Brant, and apologies again for skipping over you. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Brant.
Okay, so now we move to our last item on the agenda, and that's Northwestern Energy LED streetlight conversion update, and Kevin is presenting.
If I may, Mertz, I'd like to introduce this.
Sure.
Great, thanks. So once again, Jeremy Keene, Director for Public Works and Mobility. So we have Steve Clausen, George Horvath, and Mark Paffhausen here from Northwestern Energy. and they're going to provide an update on our LED conversion project. This is the conversion of all the Northwestern Energy owned lights. And then we'll have a staff update on the city owned lights and what we're doing with those lights also converting to LEDs, and how we're working forward with reforming some of our street lighting districts. The LED project has really gone well. I want to compliment Northwestern Energy on their work. They've been very collaborative in terms of making sure that we're meeting an appropriate lighting standard where the lights are being changed out. And they've also been very responsive to complaints, going out and making modifications to those lights, adding shielding or other measures to reduce light intrusion on private property and glare. So it's been a good team effort. It's been a lot of work, and I appreciate the opportunity to update you on this and to have Northwestern Energy here to tell you how they're doing on the project. So with that, I'll
Thanks,
hand off
Jeremy.
to George.
Are you
Steve,
ready for
thanks.
George to start?
Wherever you'd like to go.
George? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, shall I share my screen? I will. Screen, there we go. Okay, can you see that presentation slide? Am I muted? No.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So about a year and a half ago, we provided not an update at the time, we presented on this project and what we were about to do. And so now we just want to provide a short update on where we're at with the project. I got one slide here on just an overview of the statewide project, and then the rest is Missoula specific. So
George, if you can maybe expand the screen, if you go to view and yeah.
Thank you.
I think you can make it full screen mode, then we can see it a little bit better.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, from a statewide perspective, the company has about 80,000 lights across Montana. About 43,000 of them are street lights in SILDs. And so, so this project is specific to the 43,000, and it's not specific to the other approximately 40,000. Although the company, originally we had planned on doing those other 40,000 after this ended across 3 to 4 years, but we've already begun work on some of those other 40,000 lights. And it's not addressing any of the city-owned or MDT-owned lights, as Jeremy mentioned, that you all will be doing. So it's not addressing obviously those. And there's also many lights across the state that customers own themselves, like Southgate Mall, for example, has their own parking lot lights. They're not Northwestern Energy's. And obviously it's not addressing those. But the purpose of the project is to replace all the high pressure sodium fixtures with new equivalent LED fixtures. Poles won't be replaced. Basically it's a like for like replacement. That was the intent, and that's what we're proceeding on. Why are we doing it now? Well, LED lights use approximately half the energy that high pressure sodium. High pressure sodium lights are really, really efficient compared to incandescent and older technology. And so LEDs take that another step further. And of course they last longer. So there's less maintenance and less truck rolls to go back to those lights. Also, it's a good thing that we've waited this long to do it, if you will. 3-4 years ago, for example, the warmer, 2700 and 3000 Kelvin lights were not available. It was much bluer, whiter light. And so now we're able to go in with warmer lights. So it's actually a good thing that we've waited this long. And also high pressure sodium technology, not technology, but availability is, there's less and less demand for it. So the timing is good that we're moving ahead with this. So let me switch gears and go to Missoula specific. Of the streetlights in Missoula that Northwestern Energy has, there's about 2,400 of those. 1,800 or so are in Missoula city SILDs and about 600 are in county SILDs, although some of that's legacy in the sense that I believe the city's annexed some of those areas over the years. So some of those that are originally called county is probably within, not probably, is within city limits today. And they're broken into 3 different categories. Cobra headlights, which make up the majority. We're mostly complete with the conversion of the Cobra headlights. What's ahead of us is the majority of the contemporary and the Lexington style. And I've got a subsequent slide that show you what that looks like. In addition to those SILD lights, those 2,400 or so, there's another category of lights in Missoula that we've added to the project. Those are intersection lights. And these aren't like stoplight lights where there's on the stoplight, the red, yellow, and green intersection light stoplights. Those lighting intersections have lights on them that either the city owns or the MDOT owns. This is like a intersection with a stop sign that may have a light added, and it was never part of an SILD. The city over the years has said, oh, this intersection needs a light. It was never added to an SILD. It just, a onesie, if you will, a light that was added in this bucket called intersection lights. And so there's approximately 400 of those across Missoula, the city of Missoula, and we're mostly completed in replacing those. What these look like, the Cobra headlights, they're as far as the pole type is SILD specific. You know, one SILD might have all wood poles, another might have all steel poles, and so on. But the light fixtures are this style. They're all, the new ones are all 100% dark sky compliant, and they do a really nice job of putting a nice light pattern on the street and some backlight to light up a sidewalk. That's the intent of street lighting, and these do a really good job for that.
George, your audio is not good right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's better.
Okay. Apologize for that. Feel free to ask a clarifying question anytime. This might be my last slide here. The other style is the post top lights. And these are what's mostly ahead of us. We've done some of these. Basically, the light sits on top of the post. It either has a circular pattern around it or it projects most of the light to one side. And so it lights the street more than it does the grass on the backside, if you will. And all these are getting replaced by a dark sky compliant Lexington fixture, which is the one in the lower left or the lower right, is what these will be and are getting replaced with. And so that work is mostly ahead of us. And I believe that was my last slide. So we just wanted to provide an update. If there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Gwen, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm excited about this, and I know it's been rolling out across Missoula, and it's parts of my ward. But I just wanted you to speak a little bit to something that you guys have been able to do. Sometimes there are complaints that the way the light is being cast from these LED lights, which is a little bit brighter, it can impact someone's adjacent residence. And so I know that you have some interventions that you're able to do at times. And when I've had a constituent who's asked about this and requested it and had it done, it's been a good result. Could you speak to that a little bit? I think you can.
Yeah, actually, Gwen, I could speak to that. I track every single one of these. I talk to every single customer about the issue that's an impact to them. The conversations have been really good. And typically, we've been able to mitigate the issue a couple of different ways, mostly through leveling of the fixture and bringing the nose of the fixture down, which actually pulls it away from the houses across the street. We've had a fair number of those where it's it's shining in the front porch or the front window of the living room. And we've been able to mitigate that by bringing the fixture's nose down and doing some leveling. We occasionally have put a small shield in there if we still haven't got it where it needs to be, but we're not taking away any lighting off the street itself. The other thing we've been able to do occasionally is we've been able to make a little bit of adjustment in the fixture side to side, which actually has resulted in situations where it's actually produced more light on the street and solved the issue for the customer. But as of yesterday, we had 33 of these that I tracked, and we've been able to mitigate all of those issues to the satisfaction of the customer. So, you know, I'm continuing to do that. All of those calls come to me. We have a weekly call with Rick and Lori to discuss the project. And I cover those types of issues. And Rick helps us in some of the areas where there's more light or they want more light. I know he can talk about that. But those conversations, Gwen, have gone quite well and will continue into the future. So I don't know, is Mark on?
Yeah, I'm here, Steve.
There's a lot of echo, Mark. I think you might have two devices working at the same time.
You know, and thanks for the response, Steve. I just wanted to point that out, that this is a change and sometimes it needs a little tweaking, and you've been responsive. My constituents have been very satisfied. So I appreciate that and appreciate going to get it right. Thanks.
Thank you. We will keep moving in the same direction, Gwen, and we'll take these as we move through the project. So Mark, I don't know if you want to give a little bit of information about some of the areas of Missoula.
Steve, I'm having trouble with the audio. Can someone give me a thumbs up? They can hear me or not?
We can hear you fine now.
Okay, very good. Sorry for the complications there. Yeah, so just in general, as we discussed, every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. we have a meeting, typically attended by Rick Larson, Lori Hart, myself, Steve, and occasionally, yesterday we actually had Tiffany Brander on as well, because we're preparing to do some work in the downtown area in the coming next few weeks to finish up the remainder of the majority of the streetlights that we have to complete within the SILVs around town. But for instance, some of the lights that George had shown in his presentation, the Lexington style lights, they're in more of the residential developments. So we currently have some of those available to take a look at. And I would say the Bancroft and Dixon intersection, as you go into the small development to the west of town, there's six, or to the west of that intersection, there's 16 of those Lexington lights in that area of the 100-watt variety. And then we also put some of those on a 50-watt variety in the Lincoln Hills area here just recently over the last weekend to test the lighting and make sure that it's adequate in the way that it is measured at the street level. And Rick has been instrumental in doing some of that measuring with us and making sure that we've got the right amount of lighting in there. Of course, Rick and George were heavily involved with upgrading lighting along the 5th and 6th Street corridors as we head towards the university. And so that looks real nice now in that area. We've done some shielding and a few things were requested by a couple of the constituents at intersections. But most importantly, we're working hand in hand with Rick to take a look at where these complaints are and if they impact crosswalks or impact intersections where we need to keep the lighting at the street level as bright as possible. Certainly on the north side, there was within SID 34, the largest number, almost 500 lights that were changed out in there, and that's where we saw many of the first complaints coming in that we've addressed hand in hand with Rick as well. So, what else would you like me to expand upon there? Steve, any questions from anybody? I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mark. I see Heidi and then Brian. Go ahead, Heidi.
So I just wanted to comment that there's definitely been a noticeable change on my end of the north side, and that I really appreciate that you guys have worked with folks to, ensure their level of comfort, I guess, with the new lighting. I did have one question. I've heard from some north side residents that they actually feel like there's less light pollution upwards. And I was wondering if that is actually true, that these are maybe beneficial to our, I guess, the quality of our night sky.
I'll address that one. The answer, Heidi, is yes, there is less with these new lights. If I can go back to my presentation real briefly, I'll show you why. The Cobra head style lights, all the new lights have this flat bottom here. There's no light directed upward. And the old lights, there was a mixture of no lens at the bottom. So all the light of the old light of this style, this medium cutoff, was directed down. But there's many of the old style that had this drop lens, which diffused the light and spread it outward. But in the process, it shined upward to a small degree, small percentage, I'm making this up, 5% of the light went up. And so we've reduced all that sky glow with these dark sky compliant fixtures. It's a long answer to your question, but that's why.
Thank you.
Great. Brian.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in largely along the same lines that Gwen and Heidi did. And I wanted to say thank you to Steve. I don't envy you being the point person on those calls, but I really appreciate it. And I think that has been hugely important in this. Anecdotally, what I experienced both on my street here as well as with neighbors and friends and constituents around is that the older lights had degraded so much that even with these it was a pretty abrupt change for folks with these new lights, and definitely did a lot of confirming to people that these were dark sky compliant, and the temperature range, as was discussed before, is appropriate, all of which I'm very appreciative of. It's still a little bit of a shock to folks just because they've got new working lights where there were pretty degraded lights before. So I partly offered this up just as anecdotal advice or information for my colleagues as this goes more broadly through the community. I'm positive that that's what you'll experience is, it's a change and people notice it. I don't hear about it now at all. And I have several people that called and talked to Steve and other folks at the company, and their issues were addressed in the fashion that Steve and others, described, with the adjustment of the light fixture and some shielding at times and that. So I just want to emphasize mostly my appreciation for the customer service side of it and responding to those people. That has been, in my mind, the critical component that's made it successful. So thank you.
Yeah.
Great point. I just want to say thank you to our staff too for continuing to collaborate with Western Energy to ensure that our customers and residents are getting the answers that they need. And I'm sure striking a balance between efficiently lighting our streets and not disturbing residents and keeping our skies as dark as we like them is difficult. So I appreciate all the efforts that go into doing just that. Any other
I just
questions?
want to say one
Yes.
thing. This has been a great working with Rick and Lori and others who Mark mentioned on a weekly basis. And it's just worked really well for us too. So I agree. A shout out to those folks that are helping us. We appreciate it very much.
Great. Jeremy, anything else to add?
No, thanks. Thanks, Steve, George, Mark. I'd like to hand off at this point to Kevin Slovarp and Rick Larson to talk about what we're working on the city's end.
I've got a presentation, so I will look to share a screen. And hopefully this is the right screen. Okay, so I'm Kevin Slovarp, city engineer with for surface transportation with the Public Works and Mobility Department. Rick is here also to answer any questions when we get to the end of the presentation. This city presentation will generally cover what progress we made in replacing certain previous older technology light fixtures with LEDs. It'll go into SLID creation and some challenges to that. I'll start off with, I'll move to the first slide, but I'll start off with saying I noticed in Northwestern Energy's presentation the terminology SILD. I've called it Street Lighting Improvement District, or SLID, within this presentation, but essentially we're talking about the same thing between SLID and SILD. So just didn't want to get anybody confused with terminology or what the city's using versus what Northwestern Energy is using. So to start off with, then the city has replaced 90 high pressure sodium and metal halide light bulbs and fixtures with new LED fixtures. We plan to replace additional 60 fixtures by the end of 2020, and that will complete all the city-owned replacements. And that's city-owned streetlights. Then we start getting into the requirements for SLIDs. Chapter 7 of the Missoula City Public Works Standards and Specification Manual was adopted in November of last year. Within that chapter, we require that lighting be considered for all new or reconstructed streets, and design considerations shall include functional classification, traffic volumes, both vehicular and pedestrian, really all modes of transportation and traffic. We look at intersections, turning movements, signalization, channelization, and geometrics of new and reconstructed streets. So we also have standards on illumination. We have locations of where lighting is to be required and where it shall be considered. Additional information that we have in the manual is information on materials, and the street light fixtures shall be LED. So that's a requirement. And then also pole height and operation and maintenance are all included in that chapter 7. So they're desired, streetlights are desired for public safety and to eliminate crashes that may be occurring in relation to lack of lighting. We are requiring new streetlights to be in an SLID. SLIDs would pay for all, basically new SLIDs would pay for new capital, basically the poles and the fixtures themselves, the wires and everything to basically install those that lighting infrastructure, and then also operation and maintenance costs. And the developers that are required to put in streetlights per subdivision conditions or other will create a new SLID, or those developments will be added to adjacent SLIDs. So process for these new creations, the way we want this to work is the city prefers to use an area method, and really what that is new lots. As new lots are platted, the property owner of that new lot will pay for the costs of the district based on their individual lot area. That also means that any unplatted land that's still in the developer's holding will be assessed the costs of the district to that at that time based on that area of unplatted land. The city will be updating district assessments each year as new lots are platted and new costs are incurred within that district. So, so how will we address street lights not currently in a lighting district? We'll either add, as I mentioned before, add new lights within an SLID. We'll either create a new SLID, or we'll change an SLID boundary. And then all the changes, either creation or changes, will come before council to be approved. So next I have basically a depiction, a slide, if you will, of all these yellow dots are the city leased or Northwestern Energy owned streetlights. These are both within and outside of existing lighting districts. So there's a lot of current streetlights that are outside of districts. This is a zoom in on that previous map where you see outlined in red and sort of hatched a little bit is some existing lighting districts in the area just south of the river. I think this is generally the university district is what's in a lighting district, and then the lights to the south and west of those are not currently included in a lighting district. So we have some challenges. There's the determination of the district boundary. There's the methodology used, as I mentioned, for the new SLIDs. For development, we want to use the area method. There certainly are quite a few different methods that are allowable by state law. Another example I wrote here on the slide is property frontage. So that could be used in the future too. I believe it's being used right now for some of the existing lighting districts. And then other challenges are the desired level of service, and then public engagement notification process that we need to comply with state law. We would like to, with pretty much anything we do, is to obtain informed consent from property owners, based on the number of lights in the district to be created, and then staff time to create these will be a key consideration. And that concludes my presentation. And again, Rick and Jeremy are here for questions if you have them, and we'll do our best to answer those.
Thank you, Kevin. Julie, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, I have a group of constituents on Curtis Street who have long complained about the lack of streetlights in that area. And I don't foresee any major development pushing the creation of a street lighting improvement district in this area. Is there a way for us to perhaps get a conversation started about how we create one just that isn't tied to new development?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be tied to new development necessarily. It can just be the creation of a new SLID to install new lights in a particular area. So that conversation should be maybe directed to me, and I'll bring others on board, and we'll begin to have that conversation.
Okay, thanks. I'll pass that along to the neighborhood council.
Great. Jeremy, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to add that I think part of the strategy of capturing some of these lights that aren't in a current district allows us to also address places where we need light. So being able to add new poles, if we can create new districts or expand existing districts, it'll give us the ability to fill in some of those gaps where we don't have adequate street lighting.
Yeah. I see Rick's hands up. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, for some reason my video's not working. I tried to turn my camera on, so I apologize for that. I want to add too, though, is one of the things we want to do probably, and when looking at creating a district, is if you end up with say over there on Davis Street or somewhere where you've got 3 or 4 blocks of people that might want that, it's kind of difficult for the city to start piecemealing in small little lighting districts like that all around town. Whereas I think we need to look more of a holistic approach to where we can create larger ones and not have to manage so many different little small ones like that. And I think it's be a lot more efficient in the long run.
Mirta, in that, can I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
Rick, what, and just like ballpark, I'm not going to nail your feet to the ground on this. What kind of a size of an area are you thinking would be efficient for the creation of a new district in an existing neighborhood?
I wouldn't even want to venture a guess there. I think that's more of something that maybe that we need to have some sort of policy on.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? I have just a question. The slide, Kevin, you had that you needed to get resident consent. What happens if we don't? Obtain informed consent from property owners.
Yeah, that's a great question. You're probably never going to get everybody on board, but it'll still be up to city council to form a new district or to modify an existing district boundary to include some either new or existing streetlights. So you being on city council have the ultimate say in whether it's created or not.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? There's no.
Mirta, can I add to that?
Yep.
Thank you. So I think that anytime we modify a boundary or create a new district, it's going to be subject to protest. And so we will have to reach a threshold or there could be thresholds for the amount of protest that would prevent us from creating those districts or modifying districts.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. So does it work a little bit like a land use or rezone protest, but it would trigger council majority or anything like that for a district to be voted on by council?
Not necessarily a zoning change, but the lighting districts work very similar to any other special improvement district in state law, and so I think we'd have to meet the same protest provisions there.
Thanks. Okay, this was an informational item only. Thank you so much to everyone. This was very informative. Good to know what's happening in terms of upgrades in the city. So I don't see any more hands up. And that is our last item on the agenda. So thank you, everyone. And we would be adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.